Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners Postgame podcast. It's just Parker and I. Later on in the season, there will be more, but it is 1 a.m. after the University of Oklahoma just manhandled the Temple Owls 51-3 after what I think most would call a dominating defensive performance, Parker. I think anything of the sort said otherwise would be.
It was exactly the type of defensive performance that they needed to have. Exactly the type of defensive performance that we expected them to have, Brandon. I was 1 point away. My score prediction was 1 point off. I had the Sooners 52-3. They won 51-3.
I've never mentally was blowing the wind to make that field goal miss more than I was, because I know it would, if it had been 51-0, I would have been 3 points off because I had 48-0 as my score. I was okay with that. 51-3 kind of pissed me off. So after they got the 3 points, I just wanted them, because my instant reaction, I was down there talking in the end zone to somebody I went to high school with, that she just happened to be over there with her fiance, who was like a medic person for the SEC. And I was sitting there thinking the whole time, I need Oklahoma to score again, and maybe Temple to score, or OU to get like a turnover or something, because I don't want to hear it from Parker. So good pick, man.
Thank you.
Good pick.
Sooners look good defensively. That is really good defensively,
Yeah.
which again, they should have. Okay, it's week
The
one.
last time you could say that.
You're not going to have any, I don't think you're going to have any sweeping judgments about this team on either side of the ball after that performance today. But here's the thing. Here's my big takeaway, Brandon. You see your starters make plays against a team like Temple, you expect that. You don't really think twice about that. You take that, certainly, and you move on, because it doesn't mean much of anything. But when you see the second team and third team guys making plays repeatedly, then that gets you excited, because that makes you wonder, okay, is this guy or this guy or this guy potentially going to be more of a contributor throughout the season than we initially anticipated? Grayson Halton had an awesome night. Grayson Halton was crazy good, start to finish. Marcus Strong didn't get in till the very end and had back-to-back sacks to close out the game.
Yeah.
Michael Boganowski did indeed try to murder someone on the football field.
Twice.
Like, it's stuff like that. That's what I'm looking for on a night like tonight, is what are those second and third team dudes doing when they get in the game? Another great example, boy, Taylor Tatum. That kid, he's got the juice. He's got the juice. It does not take a rocket scientist to watch the way that Taylor Tatum was running the football tonight and conclude, okay, that's going to play. Regardless of who the opponent is, Taylor Tatum's got a skill set that is going to be very valuable to this Oklahoma offense immediately in 2024, regardless of the opponent.
Yeah, he has a particular skill set. And, he's pretty good at it when it comes to running the ball. If I would have told you before the game that Taylor Tatum was going to lead the team in rushing, I don't think you would have believed that. Who could?
You could have talked me into it. In fact, I think I said it on the radio earlier this afternoon. I said, probably won't be Sawchuk or Barnes that lead this team in rushing. It'll be probably going to be somebody further down the depth chart, because that's just generally how it goes in the openers. And for instance, Jacques Petaway led the team with 9 receptions last year in the opener against Arkansas State, all of which came after halftime. So the numbers get a little bit skewed on a night like tonight, but Taylor Tatum carried the ball 5 times. His 5 rushes went for 68 yards. He scored his first collegiate touchdown, and he ran with some authority, man. He ran with some desire.
Yeah.
I liked that out of Taylor Tatum. And Sam Franklin had himself a nice run as well.
He did. Just trying to make sure here. Yeah, so Sam Franklin, he had that nice run. I thought overall, I mean, you talked about Grayson Halton, right? I thought he looked good. I thought early on Dominic Williams was very noticeable, particularly in the run game. He made several big plays. I'm trying to think. I thought the linebackers looked really good. Obviously, the safeties look good. The funny thing is like the only thing that Temple even had remotely any success with was just the quick stuff on the outside. It was like little out routes, little hitches, little, I don't know if you want to call them corner routes, but they're just kind of angle routes to the outside, kind of almost mixing up like when the safety and the corner would have to tango on a certain combo route. And like that was literally the only success they had. And that was if the QB had any time to throw. I mean, again, you said it earlier, Parker, and I want to dive into this because I think it's interesting. The dichotomy of where the program is now compared to where it has been over the last 2 decades, right? Or a decade and a half. The defense was dominant, and like all the bad that you're going to have to say is offensively. When was the last time you could say that?
I think that's a great thing, Brandon.
No, it's
I think
great.
that's a
I just want to
great
know
thing.
when
And
was
I
the
have
last time you said.
well, I thought that was a rhetorical question that you were asking because it's been more than a minute. It's been a long, long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, like defense, their performance tonight was exactly what the doctor ordered. And look, you got to kind of separate the flukes from the facts. For instance, you're not going to force and recover 4 fumbles every single time out there. So
No.
that was great tonight. Provided more than a few fun moments for the fans. Not only the fumbles, but the couple of interceptions, one by Kanai Walker, one by Jaden Hardy. 6 turnovers is great. You're not going to generate 6 turnovers every single time you go out there. But it was just encouraging to see this defense dominate the way that they should have dominated up front
Yeah.
and continually lock things down in the back end. It wasn't perfect. It's never going to be in week one. There's stuff OU needs to clean up, as every team does after their week one contest. But uh, the defense's performance in an overall sense tonight was exactly commensurate with our expectations
Everything you
and
heard.
certainly indicative, I think, of the reality that this can be a very strong, borderline dominant defensive unit throughout the 2024 season as a whole.
And then halftime, I'm walking down to go meet somebody. Uh, I got a text, go down there and talk at halftime. I'll do that every now and then if somebody texts like, "Hey, come say hi" or whatever. And I'm walking by the televisions up in the press box, and they have the closed caption on, so you get to hear everything Joey Galloway, or get to read everything Joey Galloway saying on the television. Literally at halftime, you have two people from ESPN just glowing about what Oklahoma did. 4 turnovers in the first half, Parker. 4. And here's Joey Galloway. I'll believe they're good on defense if they do it against Tennessee. Otherwise, I'm not going to believe it. You're a freaking moron, dude. Like, it doesn't take rocket science to look at that defensive front. Look how deep they are. Look how deep they were in the secondary and at linebacker and go, you know what? Oklahoma's probably pretty. You want to know who their head coach is? Brent Venables. He knows a little thing about building a good defense. Like, this guy has to be the most simple-minded human being walking the face of the earth. So that irritated me a little bit just because I it's almost as if that guy will forever find something wrong with OU no matter what. He always has been that way. So it irritated me a little bit. But the awesome part is that Oklahoma goes out in the second half and then just continues to make Temple turn the ball over. Like, it doesn't matter how good the team is. 6 turnovers is a feat. That is a feat, no matter the opponent. And because of that, Parker, guess what? You'll probably see Oklahoma never leave the top 5 in turnover margin at this point. they've padded their stats so much. Well, if they get, let's say they just get one the rest of the season per game, that's 17 turnovers, 17 takeaways.
That's correct.
That's crazy.
You would like to have more than that.
You would, but you're still going to be in the top 15, 16, 20 with 17 takeaways.
I don't know if you would be.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. But regardless,
I'm
you
interested to
generate
see what it was. They were top 7 last year. Go ahead.
you generate multiple turnovers every single game, or you generate multiple turnovers most games, even some games. Any games where you generate multiple turnovers, you put yourself in a very good position to win the turnover battle. And in most cases, the team that wins the turnover battle or the turnover margin, excuse me, is going to be the team that wins the football game. And what was a really interesting question posted on the board, the OUinsider.com VIP board after the game by a subscriber was, what do you think the score of that game was absent the turnovers? And that brings us to the not so good, Brandon. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of not so good on the offensive side of the ball for the Sooners.
Ooh. Do we have
They
to?
were they were a little bit sleepy, if you will.
Yeah, it
They
was bad.
were they were a little bit stuck in the mud. It was not the prolific, effortless offensive performance we're used to seeing from Oklahoma against a team of Temple's caliber. Now, they scored, certainly, but in most cases, it was the turnovers that the Oklahoma defense was generating, giving them short fields and creating opportunities for them to score.
Mhm.
Deion Burks had 3 touchdown catches. That's great. I mean, he's going to be your alpha dog in that wide receiver room. I don't think anybody doubts that. And he looked the part tonight, was creating good
Are,
separation.
are we underestimating the loss of Nick Anderson? Just
No,
just a
and
question because do you think with Jackson Arnold, do you think that that played a role in some of the comfortability that he may have had within the passing game?
could be. But think
Bigger
anytime
guy.
you play 3/4 of football against any team, let alone a team like the Temple Owls, 3/4 of football in the books, and you have not converted a third down all game,
That
that's
was
a
awful.
problem, Brandon.
Yeah,
That's a
that's a
problem.
huge problem.
Now, the root of all of this, and I shouldn't say the root, because I don't want to make it seem like everything else that happened tonight that wasn't great or wasn't positive was directly connected to this circumstance. But Branson Hickman going down the second drive of the game with that, whatever it was, knee injury, ankle injury.
They were never the same after that.
No, because they had to shuffle up front. Garen
Yep.
Hatchett moves from, what was it, left guard over to center. Jacob Sexton slides from left tackle to left guard.
Yep.
Michael Tarquin goes from right tackle to left tackle. And the Spencer Brown experience at right tackle is what we get for the
So
final
I
50
how,
minutes of football, Brandon.
how was that for you?
Listen,
Did you pay attention to him the whole time, just like wanting to pull your hair out?
all I know is I logged into the board, or I logged onto the site and checked out the board after the game ended. I knew what I was going to see.
Spencer Brown's awful. Yeah.
I
Did you
mean,
see who
look,
they threw in there? Did you see who they threw in there midway through the third quarter? And Spencer Brown never touched the field again.
who'd they throw in there?
Logan Howland. You didn't see that?
Well, okay, yeah, but I thought all the second teamers were in at that point. Did Logan Howland come in before they went to the
I
second
thought he
team?
came in. I thought he came in the series before that because I thought it was because Jackson was out there still, which I thought was weird when the whole second unit came out there
I
because
remember
even
Logan.
Josh Bates was at, which is interesting that they went from Hickman to Gear Hatchet, and we talked about you and I talked about this.
Yep.
Like, do they trust Bates enough to not lean on Garrett Hatchett because that's what he notoriously was known for up until this past year at Washington was being a good center. That's what he was out of high school. That's what he's comfortable doing. Yeah, I thought that was interesting that they did not show that all fall camp. They didn't show it all spring, obviously, because he was injured in spring, but all fall camp. And then all of a sudden, game week, they're like, you know what? And I know Josh Bates has been banged up and all, but he still was healthy enough that they brought him out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to commend Michael Tarquin because bouncing around as much as he has throughout camp and in the opener,
Sexton.
that's a difficult
Yeah.
thing to do. Um, and so, look, regardless of what people think of the player that he is or his performance, you have to concede that moving around that much is going to be make it tough on anybody, going to make it tough
Yep.
on any guy that's tasked with doing that. But look, I've kind of tiptoed around it, Brandon. I'm just going to be blunt because the gloves come off once the season starts. I'm sure Spencer Brown is a fine individual. Nothing against him as a person. He is not a good right tackle.
He so in the name of all things, Parker Thune, when I realized he was out there and like out there,
Oh
I
yeah.
decided to pay attention to him. And there was, I don't want to say who I was talking to, but oh, he was on offense. It was like the first series of the second half. And I still haven't made my way back up to the press box. I'm down there talking, but like out in the open area in front of the little concession areas, like by the south end zone. And I made a point, because I was close enough that I wanted to watch Spencer Brown. And so I watched him that whole series. Like, I could bang my head on this desk right now, and it wouldn't be as
There
painful as it was watching that three consecutive play debauchery of blocking that I saw from Parker.
look,
He leans and bends over like at his waist the whole time he's like trying. I'm like, when have you ever been taught to do that?
Brandon, Brandon, let's call a spade here. Let's call it like it is. If at any point Spencer Brown is playing right tackle for Oklahoma during the conference schedule,
You in trouble.
oh, you're screwed.
If I'm Pierce and I'm Josh Heupel, I just move him over to that
Yep.
side and say,
Yep.
"Go to
Just
town, brother. Go eat some Jackson Arnold."
oh
That's what's
man,
gonna
James
happen.
Pierce on Spencer Brown is a mismatch for the ages.
Yeah, yeah, it's brutal. But I will say this: I for all that was bad with the offensive line, I think, and this isn't to say it's not gonna be. It's not something I'm not saying that it doesn't need work done because God, that offensive line was rough to watch tonight.
Yep.
They're so banged up, folks. Like they're so banged up. Like Garen Hatchett's playing with a jacked up upper arm
And you can
area.
tell because of how
Yeah.
much tape and the brace
Yeah.
he's got. Like you can tell Garen Hatchett is dealing with some stuff. You don't
Hickman
need
was
to.
already struggling before and he just retweaked an already injured ankle that he has
Yeah.
been dealing with all fall camp.
And Hatchett was in pain. I don't know if that was evident on the broadcast. I don't know if that was evident from where you were, but down on the field, you could tell Hatchett was in pain. He was not 100% himself tonight. Now, I guess what I'm wondering, Brandon, is you saw the effect. You saw the trickle down effect that the injury to Branson Hickman had on the rest of the offensive line and that unit as a whole. If Branson Hickman has to miss substantial time, what do you do?
I think you got to get EPL ready, left guard.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
No, I'm with it. What about Heath Ozida? Did he play
I
tonight?
want that I keep Heath Ozida. Like I would have said Heath Ozida right there, but for something I like, why wasn't he one of the first ones to go in? Like,
Well, like,
what are
but
we missing?
do you know if he played tonight? Did he
I
go in
don't.
the game?
I did not remember seeing him.
Because I don't recall seeing him either, and that might have been an oversight on my part. But
It very well could have. That second unit. Okay, who was on that second unit? You had Bates at center.
Yep. You had EPL. You had
You had
Logan
EPL.
Howland.
You had
Logan
Logan
Howland was
Howland.
playing left tackle.
Yeah, he played left.
Who was playing right? I can't recall.
I don't know. And I swore I was gonna write it down, but I was already like, whatever at that point. But I did notice Logan Howland. I did notice Bates. I did notice EPL at left guard.
Here's a guy that stood out to me just looking things over before the game even got started. And I don't know, I can't recall if he made it into the game, but we'd mentioned him on OUinsider.com as somebody that had gotten some first team reps at one point in the fall because that's how banged up that O line was. Evan McClure looks like a guy that could play at OU at some point. That does not look like your run of the mill walk on.
No, well, he got first team reps a good portion of fall camp. Remember when
Yeah,
Bates
no, like you can
everybody was out?
generally
Yeah.
it's generally not difficult, especially with offensive linemen, to differentiate the scholarship guys from the walk-ons. If I didn't know better, I'd say Evan McClure was a scholarship guy. He looks the part. I don't know if he plays like it, but he definitely
Ozida
looks the
played.
part.
Ozida played. Now I don't know if that was field goal. I don't know if that was whatever, but he's listed on the participation report. So no,
Build the O line with no Hickman. Go ahead.
okay, so man, that's so bad. You you got to go left tackle Sexton,
I agree.
left guard either Ozida or EPL, right? You would think
Yeah,
your center has got to be Garen Hatchett.
gotta be.
Now, here's a better question, and this wasn't asked, and I think it should have been. And now that we're talking about it, should ask BV when do they expect Everett back? Because that changes everything.
Yep.
Because if Everett comes back, oh, you're good to go at center again. Like you're like it's like you had. I don't want to say he's as good as Hickman, but he's pretty freaking good.
Yeah,
And
he's all right.
so,
He's all right,
I mean,
especially at
like,
center.
yeah,
He can
exactly.
hold his
So
own there.
at that point, I go, okay, if Everett's healthy, I go Everett, Garen Hatchett at left guard, left tackle would be Sexton, my right guard, Weiwu and or Weewoo, Weewoo,
Wee woo.
Woo-
Yeah,
Weewoo, Weewoo, and my right tackle is Jake Taylor if he's healthy.
I agree.
And
You're not.
look, Jake Taylor not being out there, I want to express this to everybody. That is a big loss. It is. If Jake Taylor's healthy, you now have Tarquin and Sexton as your left guard and left tackle. Your center is Hickman or Hatchet, and your right guard is Weiwu. Like, that's a good O line. That's a really good O line. But when you start having to put Spencer Brown out there, it doesn't work. And I hate hating on the guy, but man, it was bad. And they just couldn't get anything going on that right side of the line all night. All their big plays came to the left. Did you know that? Notice that?
That's
All the
true.
runs.
That's pretty true. Um. Also, JJ Hester, he got the opportunity, and
And
then as
that
quickly
sucked
as
for
he
him.
got it, he blew it, which is unfortunate because there's from everything that we'd heard throughout fall camp about JJ Hester, there was a lot to be excited about there, but dropped a couple passes, wound up getting yanked for Ivan Carrion, and that was that. That was another
He'll get
thing.
it back.
Yeah,
They'll
that
give
was
him another chance.
another entry into the journal tonight offensively that you would categorize as not
Um,
terribly encouraging.
how about encouraging? We've talked about Taylor Tatum. OU can has tight ends. That Bauer Sharp guy is pretty good.
And look, I tweeted it at the time, but Bauer Sharp, that 14-yard touchdown catch that he had on the Sooners opening offensive possession,
Yeah.
that came out of 12 personnel, Brandon. When was the
Double
last time
tight.
you saw
Yeah.
Oklahoma roll with 12 personnel? You haven't been
Uh,
able to do that. for the last two
Yeah,
seasons at least.
2020,
Like it's got to be well, no,
2021.
got to be 21 with Stogner and Willis
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Jeremiah
2020,
Hall. That's the
2021. Yeah.
last time uh you could go to a package
Well,
like that because
22, they did it with Jeremiah Hall and Willis. But
Hall
I
wasn't
guess
around
it
in
was
22. It was just
Hall
Braden
wasn't.
Willis. Yeah.
That's right. He was your H-back, wasn't he? Yeah. I guess, yeah, that's right. Why do I keep thinking 22? Yeah, but I guess 21 would be the last time. I mean, that's crazy. But I look, Jake Roberts is really good. Bauer Sharp is elite. Like he's going to be so good. And I know people go, well, you threw that elite, really liberally. No, like watch him run, watch him
Yep.
catch. Like
Yep.
that's
That's
elite. That's an elite athlete. Like he is so good. That was his very first FBS game. And I,
he didn't look out of place.
he did not. He looked like there
He
were a
looked
couple
like
of
he more than
passes.
belonged.
Yeah, there were a couple of passes that were just a little off. If Jackson hit him, who knows what? Because they say when he gets going, he's not getting caught from behind. He's very much to me, he reminds me of Mark Andrews the way that he plays, like style. I'm not saying he's Mark Andrews because that's just insanity. There's maybe five guys walking the face
Yeah.
of the earth and they're all in the NFL that are Mark Andrews. That guy plays like him though, just fast, big, strong.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say he reminded me a little bit more of Braden Willis because like he he's big and he's got plenty of
He's not as big as Andrews. You're right.
yeah, he's big and he's got plenty of good weight on his frame, but he carries it really, really well. Like
He's an intense dude.
he doesn't look bulky. He looks exactly the way a tight end should look in this day and age.
And I got to give it up to Jake Roberts because he came up to me after the game. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Drumm, how you doing?" Blah blah blah. I
Oh, he
hadn't,
called you Mr. Drumm, huh?
yeah, Brandon, Mr. Drumm, yeah, whatever. Um, that was for storytelling purposes. I didn't want to do, "Hey, B Drum, what's up?" Like, because that's really how it went. But that just sounds really informal, and for the people. But and you got me off on this. Like, it was a simple story about him. I just hadn't seen him up close like that in a while. He looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Like he has trimmed down and not like trimmed down weight, like baby fat off of him, like just yoked up a little bit. Like he looks very toned and like he doesn't look like what I saw at Baylor or North Texas.
No, I agree with that. I agree
He
with
looks
that.
good.
I think 12 personnel is going to be a strength for Oklahoma. The ability to go to that package, especially if you need to run the ball and your O line is less than stellar, being able to have two
Yeah.
tight ends on the field at once, that'll be huge. Um, also, and this is kind of only tangentially related, but I'm buying it with Brennan Thompson, man. I know it didn't really show up in the box score tonight, but the version of
What was
Brennan
wrong with him?
Thompson, what's up?
What was wrong with him tonight?
I don't think anything was wrong with him tonight.
Yeah, he had to be walked to the locker room, came back out with the trainer
Oh,
like
did he really?
5 minutes into the second half. Yeah.
See, I lost track. There were so many guys that had to go back to the locker room. I lost track, but so I don't know. I should check in on that.
Should.
But the at least until that happened, the Brennan Thompson that I saw, I'm a believer, man. I think that dude is going to be a much more complete wide receiver
Yeah.
than the one we saw. Like I think everything that Brent Venables said last week, everything that Brennan said last week, what I saw tonight with my own two eyes lines up with those accounts. I think that guy's going to be much more of a well-rounded weapon in this offense in 24 than he was in 23.
Never mind. I remember what happened.
What happened?
So early in the second half, do you remember on a third down play, short yardage, where it was a short throw. Jackson kind of rolls out and hits him, but as he's throwing to him, there's a corner just sitting there waiting to
Yep.
light him up. That's what happened.
And so he took a shot.
Yeah, he took a shot. It looked like they probably went back in there to, precautionary measure, and he came back out. He didn't have his helmet with him or anything. He was just walking. So I assume They probably just held him out just for precautionary measure. I doubt he was concussed or anything, but he took
Speaking
a
of
nice
which,
little shot.
yeah, speaking of which, for those that aren't up to speed, Brent Venables told us a few things after the game. One being Woody Washington and Eli Bowen were held out tonight for precautionary reasons. They are both a little bit sore, could have
Yep.
played, but there was no reason to really risk it against a team like Temple. Um, and then, of course, the worst news, the worst news of the evening is that after catching a 47-yard pass from Jackson Arnold on the Sooners' opening possession, Jalil Farouk had to exit the game, didn't return. We've come to find out after the fact in Venables' press conference that Farouk's going to undergo foot surgery and he's going to be on the shelf for 6 to 8 weeks at the
That
very least.
sucks. So
So
you're not getting back till like the third week of October.
yeah, mid-season, like a return for the Texas game is best case scenario. Best
That
case scenario.
sucks. That sucks because he again, and I guess we need to throw that out there as well. So for everybody that and us included, I didn't even look at it like this, but now that we're talking about it, Parker, I kind of like trying to kind of look at it in a more broad spectrum. But Jackson Arnold was without Jake Taylor, he was without Branson Hickman, he was without Troy Everett, right? Like those are three really good offensive linemen for you. He was without Nick Anderson. He was without Jalil Farouk. You might struggle a little bit with five guys that are your starters.
Well, yeah, but even so, like, did Jackson really struggle too? Like, I think that's
No,
going to
he
be the
was good.
narrative,
I'm just talking
sure.
offensively. Offensive. Jackson was fine.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
talking offensively as a whole.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Jackson went 17 to 20, 25, excuse me,
Yeah.
threw 4 touchdown passes, didn't turn the ball over.
Four drops.
Um, yeah, the drops didn't help. Both BV and Seth Luttrell mentioned that after the game. So, like, this offense, they'll find their rhythm. They will. It wasn't perfect today, but it's week one. Once again, offense is something you never worry about at the University of Oklahoma. And regardless of what injuries the Sooners are dealing with up front, I still have faith that Bill Bedenbaugh is going to be able
Yes.
to put together a winning lineup of 5 dudes by the time Tennessee comes to town.
So you say that, and there's somebody that is very, very smart when it comes to football that totally agrees with that.
Is it you?
So- Well, yes. So you got two other people that are very smart when it comes to football. Just no. I was listening to the play-by-play as one does when you're up in the press box. So in my earpiece, I'm listening to the radio play-by-play, and Bob Stoops comes on, and they're talking about the offensive line struggles a little bit, and he goes, "Look, Bill Bedenbaugh is a master." He goes, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. If they're struggling now, they won't. He'll have it figured out, and they will." He said, and I quote, "They will not be the weak link of the offense by the end of the year." He's that's a man that knows Bill Bedenbaugh, hired him for a reason, coached with him for a long time, trusts him, knows. I mean, like, I don't think Bob would say that if he didn't feel that was truly the case, right? You're muted. You're muted.
Well, okay. That was my bad on my part. I don't know how I ended up muted. I don't recall doing that to myself. But I think early in the season, Brandon, regardless of how many injuries you're dealing with, and the Sooners are dealing with quite a few right now, you're
Yeah.
still going to be in the process of finding out what works and what doesn't. And you're certainly going to have to experiment a little bit to find what works and what doesn't when you are dealing with so many revolving doors, personnel wise. For instance, again, you look at the football that was played tonight, you can safely conclude Spencer Brown is not it. That is an example of something that doesn't work.
Correct.
With that knowledge, you proceed, you go on down the list, check the boxes, and ultimately arrive at what you can safely conclude is your most solid lineup of five guys, and the five guys that give you the best chance to win. So, did we see those five guys tonight? No, I don't believe we did. That has certainly something to do with injury, in addition, and in addition to the fact that you're giving some guys opportunities, like a Spencer Brown, because you're going to naturally lean towards or err towards giving the more experienced dudes the benefit of the doubt with that type of thing.
Right.
Spencer Brown has 25 starts to his name at Michigan State. So he's been around the block a time or two. You kind of got to see it with your own eyes on a Saturday, or in this case, on a Friday, to know that, okay, this guy is probably not what we want anchoring that side of our offensive line.
Yeah.
So you learn things experientially. There are lessons that have to be learned on Saturdays, or again, Fridays, as the case may be, early in the season. And that's why the non conference slate exists. That's why you schedule a team like Temple, so you can
Yeah.
figure those things out. So you don't have to try and learn all the lessons there are to be learned about your unit on the practice field, because there are some things that you just won't be able to learn on the practice field.
So I want to ask you, let's say Houston goes out and dominates UNLV today, or yeah, it's today because it's almost 2 a.m. Let's say they do that. If you're Oklahoma after you watch, and let's say they look good defensively, are you the least bit worried just because it's a Willie Fritz team that they could come in here and really cause a problem, particularly if Oklahoma is not back to snuff health wise on the offensive line?
Yeah, I think the Sooners are still going to be confident, and I think they're still going to attack their preparation in game week from the top down as if Houston presents a real challenge, because, Brent Venables and this staff, they're not going to look past anybody. They're going to
No,
give
no.
everybody their due. But uh, going into that Houston game, that again is a game that Oklahoma ought to win handily. I don't know whether they
Yes.
ought to win it by 49 points the way that they did tonight against Temple, but that should be a game you win comfortably by multiple possessions.
Mm,
So, and again, I don't think it much matters who is comprising your five starters up front on the offensive line,
right.
or what your recipe looks like at any other position group for that matter. Like, injuries or no injuries, you should be able to beat the Houston Cougars in their current iteration.
No, I totally agree. Just Willie Fritz he always, for some other reason, gives one big name a problem. And if you're Oklahoma, you don't want it
Oh,
to
that's
be.
true. That's true. That has to do generally with out coaching, though. Is Brent Venables going to let himself get out coached by
I
Willie
don't think
Fritz?
so.
I don't think
No.
so either. That's why I feel pretty confident that Oklahoma gets things done next
Uh,
week.
all right. Let's do our players of the game,
Okay.
and then let's call it. I mean, it was a 48-point victory. I don't know how much more we can talk about a 48-point victory that was essentially over when the first quarter ended.
All right, you take your player of the game first. I don't want to steal one from you.
Okay, offensively, hmm, let me look here because I don't want to. I want to go creative here. I want to be. I don't want to
Be
do the old.
genuine. Who comes to mind? Who stood out most to you tonight?
Oh, the easy one's Dion Burks. But
Okay. Take Deion Burks then.
all right, I'll take Dion Burks. Hat trick, right? He didn't have a
Yeah.
whole lot of yards. He only had 36 yards receiving, which is crazy for 3 touchdowns. Like, you don't really think about it, but he had a couple of big passes that either overselled him, or there was one Parker that I don't know if the other team jumps offside, and I know that it's a free and the center's just automatically going to snap it, and everybody's running goes. It doesn't matter if you throw a pick or whatever
Yeah.
because you're getting the ball back and you're getting 5 yards. I throw it in Dion Burks' his region and or Nick Anderson's region, um, if he was healthy. And you know who else we forgot's not healthy, by the way? Jaden Gibson. Like that
Yes.
wide receiver unit went from like to getting very depleted very fast. um, but that one free play that he threw it over to the right side. I don't remember who it was to. I
Ivan
think it was
Carrion.
Ivan Curry. Okay, yeah. Burks was wide open down the seam on the left side, like nowhere within 30 yards. I'm like, just burnt his dude. And you should have saw Burks's reaction. He just was like walking back with his hands up. Like, what the hell, man? Like, he would have scored, but he only had 46 yards, but he got the hat trick. He was close to having four. Um, didn't get it, but I still think those three were huge. If I would have went outside the box, I would have obviously picked Keltner, but I'm gonna go with Dion Burks.
Golf clap for Keltner, by the way. 3 for 3 tonight, including the first 50-yard field goal for the Sooners since the 2021 season. That's how long it's been since Oklahoma successfully converted a field goal from that distance. He's the first guy since Gabe Burkich to hit from
And
beyond 50. So,
Zach Schmidt kicking in the end zone every time too is a big weapon.
yeah.
Don't hate
So,
on him. He did
hey,
good.
I mean, Venables handed Keltner the job, even
Yep.
when Schmidt came on really, really strong in fall camp. And Keltner went a long way towards proving Venables right
Yep.
this evening. You don't prove a coach right with one performance or one game, but he did everything he needed to do. He was tasked with making 3 attempts. He made all 3 attempts, including one from beyond 50. So, yeah, golf clap for Keltner, tip of the cap. My offensive MVP. I didn't. If it's not going to be Dion Burks and it's not going to be Jackson Arnold, I kind of don't want to go Jackson Arnold just because, again, when I evaluate a game like this, I don't want to necessarily take for granted the contributions of the starters, but I also don't want to go overboard in giving them praise for the performances that we've come to expect from
Right.
guys that have earned starting jobs at the University of Oklahoma. I look at the second team, I look at the third team, the guys further on down the depth chart that got in the
There's
game
Taylor
and made an
Tatum.
impact, and I'm going with Taylor Tatum. Because again, 5 carries,
I
68
can't. It's a
yards,
good pick. Yeah.
that touchdown. And my big thing, having watched it up close and personal, not
He's
just at the high
exciting.
school level, but now at the collegiate level, is you can tell like it's going to translate. It's going to translate. He's going to be able to make an impact for this team in 2024. And it's not just going to be a non conference play. I believe that.
He's
Defensively, who do you got?
exciting, man. He's so exciting. Taylor Tatum's so exciting. Come on, man. Like, who do you think is the obvious defensive MVP? I know that you expect the starters to do this and that, Parker, but dadgum, man, Grayson Halton. Like, why not? Grayson Halton's stat line today was he had 3 tackles, he had 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. Pretty good. Pretty good.
He was making a living in
Um,
the backfield, man.
he was. That defense was making a living in the backfield. I felt so bad for the quarterback. That poor dude was just.
He took a beating.
Oh my god,
He took
yes.
a beating. My defensive MVP and Grayson Halton, I agree, is the obvious choice. Um, he had the best individual night, but he didn't have the only good individual night. There were a
No,
lot of good individual nights to go around on the defensive side of the ball. But man, I'll give the nod to Robert Spears Jennings. I thought he had a really
good
strong
one.
performance. Forced and recovered a fumble, made plays not only on defense but on special teams as well. And I really think, and I mentioned this to you after the game, I think getting that competitive push from Michael Boganowski has really lit a fire underneath Robert Spears Jennings and
Yeah.
helped enhance who he is and what he is as a player. Playing with a little bit of extra fervor. And you love to see that from a guy that is already so physically gifted at that safety position. So, really, really strong opening performance for him as he breaks the seal on his junior year. And you're an Oklahoma fan and you believe Oklahoma can have one of the top secondaries in the country in 2024, as I certainly do, Brandon. What's going to aid that significantly is the continued progression and development of Robert Spears Jennings.
Yeah.
Also, I want to give a shout out to Kendall Dolby. He was awesome tonight
Oh,
as
he
well.
was awesome. Yeah. So after the game, this is with your Boganowski, Robert Spears Jennings analogy, or observation. Somebody, I don't want to say who, but they walked up to me and they were like, "Dude, I told you." I said, "What?" That Michael Boganowski is going to be a freak. That dude is going to be a first round draft pick. Look at how he kills people. He's a freshman. He has no idea what he's doing, and he's taking dudes' heads off. They're so high on him. And
As they should be.
I said, well, he didn't play until it was out of hand. They said, that's not how it's going to be all season. Like, he's going to get more and more reps during crucial, critical moments as they start to rotate more and more to keep guys fresh. And as the hits, the body shots, everything, the wear and tear starts to add up, they're going to need those guys. So you're right. I think the Robert Spears, Jennings, Michael Boganowski, I don't want to say it's a battle because I think Robert Spears is still ahead because he knows the defense better, obviously, and he's been around for longer. But I think RSJ also sees what this dude's going to be at some point, and he's not about to let that take place while he's still there and not in the NFL, and taking money away from him. And that's smart on RSJ. And I think great for him because I think this is where we'll finally get to see the RSJ that everybody in Oklahoma has been talking about for so long. And I'm excited to see that, Parker. I'm very, very excited. All right. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor post game podcast. Oklahoma won 51-3 over Temple. They play Houston next Saturday, next in the evening. Got 8 days rest. You get to watch all the college football and listen to this podcast or watch it on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, thumbs up, whatever, on whatever platform you are. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Make sure you're downloading all of the stuff that we do, as far as the podcasts go, because that really helps us as far as knowing what is what you like, all that type of stuff. And obviously it helps us go and do coverage. Like, I'm going to see Amarian Robinson and Owen Hollenbeck today, later on today, because we're recording this on a Saturday morning at almost 2 a.m. So that type of stuff is what helps us. Also, subscribe to OU Insider, $9.99, $9.95 for the whole year, or $9.95 is for 1 month. That's all you got to do. If you want to go a month, give us a try. Give us a try. It's worth it. It's worth it. College students, if you have a .edu, make sure you email ouinsider@rivals.com. Again, any college student, any university, doesn't matter. If you have a .edu email and you email us at ouinsider@rivals.com, we can give you OU Insider for a whole year for $11.95. Send you a promo code. You put it in, you get it for less than $1 a month. All right. Once again, Oklahoma wins 51-3 over Temple to open the 2024 season. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Students podcast. For Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drumm. You guys have a blessed day.